Welcome to College 101 here on the College Guide. The goal of this video series is to help you learn about all the basics of college life. I'm sure when you came here you were hoping to hear about topics like roommates, meal plans, study tips, and we're going to get to all of that. But for me, the most important place to start with college is with some of the financial decisions. So today we're going to be talking about how debt works and how you can know how much you're going to be paying for a long time if you end up taking out student loans. Now, I want to preface this that there's nothing wrong with student loans. For a lot of people, they're necessary and they're very, very helpful. But I don't want you to get into it and then once you graduate, start paying those loans and regret it because you feel like you didn't know what you were getting into. So we're going to go over some numbers and explain some terms that will hopefully help you understand debt in the sense of student loans as well as the rest of your life, and it will be hugely helpful to you. And it's something that isn't often taught in high school for some reason. If there's only one thing you remember from this video, it should be this statistic right here. The average person, student loans will cost them $8.50 per month per $1,000 borrowed for 15 years, assuming a 6% interest rate. Did that make any sense to you? If it didn't, go ahead and watch the rest of the video and we're going to explain what all of those terms mean and what that means for you. When it comes to debt, and student loans in particular, there's four terms that are really important. The first one is principal. The second one is rate or interest. The third one is term. And the fourth one is amortization. Let's start with principal. Principal is the most straightforward. The principal is just the amount that you're borrowing to use. So if you take out a $5,000 loan during your freshman year to help pay for tuition or housing costs, then your principal on that loan is $5,000. If you're buying a house, your principal might be $200,000. If you're buying a car, it might be $20,000. It's really just that simple. It's how much money you're borrowing. It therefore makes sense that the more money you borrow, the more you're going to have to pay later. The second important term to understand is interest or rate or interest rate, whatever you want to call it. You can think of interest as the price of the loan, or it's the money that the bank or the government wants you to pay them for borrowing their money and using it. Banks or the government could be using this money for so many different things like investing in businesses or building infrastructure. And so to make up for that lost opportunity, you pay a little bit of interest to them to make up for those opportunities. However, they offer these loans because they also want to incentivize you to go to college because they believe it will make you a better person and probably also more likely to take out loans from them in the future or pay more taxes to the government. Interest rates are given as a percentage and typically as an annual percentage. So let's say, for example, if you took out a $1,000 loan and you had a 6% interest rate, then that would mean you would owe $60 of interest in your first year. However, you typically make a payment on your loan each month. If you take that 6% and divide it by 12 months, you'd be paying 0.5% of interest each month, which would be $5. Interest can be pretty small or it can be pretty large, all depending on that rate, and in the end, it's money that you aren't making back. That's why the faster you pay it off, the less interest that you're going to pay, and the better it is for you. That brings us to our third term, which is term, actually. So term is just the length of the loan. Typically it's given in years or months. It's really easy to convert between the two. I'm sure you can all handle that. For things like houses, common terms are 15 or 30 years. For cars, it might be 3 to 8 years. And for student loans, it's typically somewhere between 10 and 20 years, with that average being 15 like we talked about earlier. Like I said, the faster you pay it off, or the shorter your term, the less interest you're going to pay, but also the higher the payment, right? If you're going to pay back $10,000 in 10 payments, you need to pay about $1,000 plus interest for each payment. If you're going to pay it back in 100 payments, you've only got to pay $100 plus interest each payment. But that interest is really going to rack up over the course of those payments. The last term that I want to talk about is amortization. And this is the most complicated idea. Basically, because your interest is based on how much you still owe the bank or the government, it changes every single month. It'd be really obnoxious if you and the bank or the government had to come up with your payment every single month and send them a check for the exact right amount every single month. And so they have a formula I can post it right here, that tells you exactly how much your payment should be to have your payment be the same from the beginning to the end of your loan. However, this does come at a cost. As you can see from the graph right here, at the beginning of your payment schedule, more of your money will be going to interest than at the end because you have more principal you owe interest on. That blue curve that's going downwards, that's the interest paid each month. The red curve going upward is how much of the principal you're paying off each month. So you can see at some point there's a crossover point, and the higher your interest rate, the farther in the future that point is where you're finally paying more principal than interest. Alright, break time. Why was the banker so bad at his job? He lost interest. If you enjoyed that pun or the video so far, please like the video and subscribe to the channel. If you really hate puns that much, please subscribe to the channel and click the notification bell so that you can come and let me know on every single video how much you hate these jokes. Now that we've talked about these four terms, principal, rate, term, and amortization, I want to give you some numerical examples to show the relationships between them and how to best pay off your loan for your different goals. So the first loan and the loan we're going to use for our baseline for all of these comparisons is a $100,000 loan at a 3% interest rate for 30 years. That would be like a pretty small home loan, depending on where you're from. A loan with those different parameters would cost you $422 per month. So that's sort of our baseline we're going to work from. So let's say we double the principal. Instead of a $100,000 loan, it's a $200,000 loan now. For a loan of that size, you're going to be paying twice as much, $844 per month. That one's straightforward because you have double the principal to pay, and because your principal is doubled, you're also paying double the interest each month. And so that one is super straightforward and easy. The next relationship is a little more nuanced and complicated. Let's go back to our $100,000 loan at 3% for 30 years. And what happens if we double that interest rate to 6% but have the same principal and term? For this, your payment is going to jump up to $600 per month. You might say, why didn't that double? The interest rate doubled. Well, the principal is still the same, so you're paying the same principal each month and paying it down over the same amount of time. You're just paying more interest over time. And so that's why it didn't fully double, but you are paying more. The last comparison I want to make is what would happen if you paid it off twice as fast or in half the time. So take that $100,000 loan at 3% for $422 a month, but you're going to pay it off in 15 years instead of 30 years. Now that payment is going to be $691. And you might say, that's the most expensive option. Why would I do that? However, in some ways this might be your smartest choice because you're paying the least interest. Because you're paying it off faster, you're only paying interest for 15 years rather than 30 years. As well, the amount of interest you're paying each month is shrinking twice as fast as it would if you had a 30-year loan. So even though you're paying the most out of pocket each month, you're also saving the most money. This chart over here really highlights this difference by showing you what percentage of the loan you pay over the life of the loan. So for that first base loan, you're going to pay $152,000 or 52% more than you borrowed over the course of a 30-year loan. For the loan at 6%, you're going to pay more than double. You're going to pay 216% or 116% over what you borrowed. So $200,000 you're going to pay when you only borrowed $100,000. So you can see how interest can really rack up fast over the course of a loan. Now if we look at that last option we talked about where you paid off twice as fast, you're only paying an extra $24,000 for that loan, even though you're paying a little more each month up front. And plus, your loan has gone faster, so after 15 years you're up, that $691 you've been spending every single month is freed up 15 years earlier than your money would have been otherwise. Anytime you take out debt, there's a delicate balance between how much you need to borrow, how fast you can pay it off, all within what the current interest rates are. Again, I want to emphasize that I'm not saying that no one should ever take out student loans. Student loans are a great tool, and they can really help you focus on school rather than a lot of distractions that you might have. It also might make it possible to go to college for people who it just wouldn't be possible otherwise, and I'm grateful that that's an opportunity. So let's go back to that first statistic I shared in this video and see if it makes a little more sense to you. For the average person, school costs them $8.50 per month per $1,000 borrowed at a 6% interest rate for 15 years. It's also helpful to know that the average student graduates with $30,000 in student debt. So we take that $8.50 per month times 30,000, you end up seeing that most people are paying over $250 per month for their student loans. That's not a small amount, and that can really change your goals for getting a new car, getting into a house, renting on your own, or whatever your goals might be. By setting this expectation up front, I hope you'll see the pros and cons of student loans and understand what you're getting into as you look at the costs of different colleges and also how much loan you're going to borrow and how long you're going to take to finish college. In the next video, we're going to talk a little bit more about what kinds of student loans are out there and which programs you can take advantage of so that you can understand what your current options are and how much you can borrow. Again, thanks for watching, and if you found this video helpful, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. Thanks for tuning in to College 101 here at the College Guide.